Hello and welcome to your fifth Fancade scripting tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about loops. So a loop is used when you want some script to run more than once instead of just running a single time. Okay, so just for a demonstration, let's grab a play sensor and let's grab some variables. Let's get some values and maybe get an inspect just in case we need that, and an add block as well. Okay, so let's create a variable and let's call it hello, and we're going to add one to hello, just like this. Add one to hello, and we're going to get a play sensor so it only runs once, and then we're going to check hello's value, just like this. Okay, and as you can see, hello is equal to 1, as we added 1 to hello when the game started. That is as we expected it. Now, here's the thing. What if after we have inspected hello, I were to do something like this? Now, what we've created here is called an infinite loop, and I'll explain why that is. So when we hit play, it's going to run this script right here, which adds 1 to hello. Then it's going to inspect hello, and then after it has inspected hello, it's going to loop, or it's going to go all the way back to this script right here, and it's going to run it again for a second time, and then it's going to inspect hello again, and after that it's going to loop again, run the script again, loop again, and it's going to do this forever, pretty much. And that's not good. That's not good at all. That's actually very bad, because if I were to hit play right now, the game would freeze for a few seconds and I would get an error. I actually got an error here, and it says timeout, infinite loop. And well, it just means that you have an infinite loop in your game. And as you can see, hello's value has increased to over 16 million, almost 17 million. So it has actually ran over 16 million times, and that's a lot. And that's how many times it ran before it could determine that the loop was infinite, and it gave you an error. Okay, now loops are useful, but not these kinds of loops. Not the loops that are infinite, that run over and over and over again and crash your game and just make you sad. No, those kinds of loops are not very useful, but we can make this loop useful. See, if we had some way to only not run the loop forever, to stop it from looping over and over and over again forever, but have the loop only run a certain amount of times, and after it has ran those amount of times, it's going to exit the loop. If we could do that somehow, well, to do that, it's actually pretty easy. All we need is an if block, and let's also get an equals block. So, for each loop we do, we're going to check. So after we have inspected hello, we're going to run an if statement here. And this if statement is going to check if hello is equal to a certain value. And let's just set it to 100 for now. So what we can do is, if hello is not equal to 100, so if this if statement is false, we can loop the script again. And if it's true, we can just do nothing. So this will just, so if it's true, it's not going to loop again because the wire isn't connected, and that's going to stop the loop from running. So what we've got here is a loop that runs exactly 100 times. Because each loop, it adds 1 to hello, it inspects hello, and then it checks if hello is equal to 100, and if it isn't, it's going to run again. So hello is going to increase over and over again until hello is equal to 100, because when hello is equal to 100, this is going to be true and it's not going to loop again. So if I hit play right now, hello is going to be equal to 100, which means that this loop has run exactly 100 times. That is a good example of a loop. And loops can be used, you might not immediately realize what loops are useful for right now, but there are a lot of situations where you want to use a loop. I use them all the time. I haven't really taught you any of this, but stuff such as things like adding a bunch of values to a list, creating a bunch of objects at once, casting a bunch of ray casts at once. There's a lot of examples of when you want to use a loop. So yeah. Now we can also do some other things with loops. What we can do is we can, for example, we can multiply a value by 2 10 times. Say we wanted to do that. So right now we have a value called hello, and hello is going to be equal to 100. So the loop is going to run 100 times. If I reduce this number to, let's say, 10, it's only going to run 10 times now. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to add a new variable, and let's call it, I just call it, you know what, I'll call it nothing this time. If you don't name your variable anything, the default value is, or the default name for the variable is going to be num. And you can actually use this variable. It still works. You don't actually have to name your variable. So I can set this to 1 for now. And what I can do is I can multiply this value called num by 2 for every loop it does. So let me just multiply num by 2 here. Okay. Now that we've done that, we're just going to connect it all up. Okay, so now we've got a loop with 2 different variables. So the first one is called hello, and hello just basically determines how many times the loop has run in total, and when hello reaches 10, it's going to stop the loop. Now we also have another variable which is going to multiply itself by 2 every time it loops. So let's actually inspect this, and if we hit play now, you'll see that num is equal to 1024. So if you were to take the number 1 and multiply it by 2 10 times, it's going to be equal to 1024. So what we can do now is play around with this a little bit. So we can say we want to add one more loop to the loop, if that makes sense. So if we hit play now, you'll see that it's the num variable is equal to 2048. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. You could also start with a variable or you could start with a variable that's equal to something like 10,000, and you could divide it by 2. We don't actually need a division block. We can just say times 0.5. That's basically the same thing as dividing by 2. So we hit play now. It's going to be equal to 4.883. Okay. So that's another example of a loop. I guess what you could do also is you could multiply num by hello. So now it's going to, first off, the first time it's going to multiply num by 1 because hello is equal to 1. When it loops again, it's now going to multiply num by 2 then it's going to multiply it by 3, then 4, then 5, and so on. So we hit play, we get a pretty big number. Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. I encourage you to recreate this script yourself and just play around with it. See what you can do. Um, you could also, I don't think I've actually shown you uh, the random block, have I? I don't even remember. But anyways, the random block has a min and max value, so you can multiply a random value to num. So let's say, so the min is the minimum value, the max is the maximum value. So you could say multiply it by a number between 1 and 5. And that's going to multiply num by some random number 11 times exactly. So you get some random numbers. Sometimes you get like really high numbers, sometimes you get really low numbers. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this. And loops are very useful in a lot of situations. But that is pretty much all I wanted to show you today. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.